Okay, I'm Uvile-Ovayo. That's my full name. I was born and raised in East London in the Eastern Cape, part of a big family. I have 9 siblings, believe it or not, and then came to Stellenbosch to study after that. I am 24 and I work for a company called Skynamo. I'm in HR there, but it's millennials, so it's people ops. I'm in people ops.
Yeah.
That's what we call it. I'm quite chilled. I'm a person who likes color, I like plants, have a cat. Yeah, so that's a bit of a difficult one because, so I think probably around grade 9, I can place that it was probably the first time I spoke about it out loud rather and had teachers at school be like, something's wrong. Go speak to your mom, something's wrong.
Yes.
But then starting probably in grade 9, which is, when was I in grade 9? 2011, I want to say. But after that, I kind of realized that it actually had been something I'd been struggling with before. I just didn't have a name for it. I didn't know where to place it. I didn't know that these were symptoms. So I'd probably say, around about towards the end of primary school. Yes, but only officially diagnosed around about grade 10, which was 2012. So I think that is the thing for me. So the journey it's holistic. So it's everything. So there's a chemical part to it. There's a emotional part to it. There's all the things affect everything.
Yeah.
So I think for a while I was willing to address I'm willing to go see a psychologist and we're going to talk through my problems and my dark past and the things I'm hiding, and I'm willing to talk about that, but I'm not willing to have medication because that's kind of like too far. That's now I'm sick or now something's wrong with me. Because therapy is fine, I'm just talking through my feelings. Everyone has stuff going on. My life has been difficult, all these things, but medicine, no. But then it wasn't until I was willing to address every single aspect of the issue that I kind of got help. And I think specifically with things like clinical depression and anxiety and all of these things, there really is a chemical part to it that we miss. And again, like you said, we think, she's seeing a shrink, like cuckoos or whatever it is. But there are really professionals who are trained to see things we don't see, to ask the correct questions, to bring up whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because yes, sometimes it is genuinely but it's genuinely trauma.
Yeah.
Because when you were 4, this traumatic thing happened in your life and now it's buried so deep in your brain and that's chemically changed the way your brain works to affect you today. And it is that. And that is what we need to sit in therapy for months or years or whatever it is working through. But sometimes you also need medication because there is a chemical imbalance in your brain. Yeah. And sometimes it's both. And sometimes it's a compound of things, which you can't sit in your room and think about and then and then you can fix it. So there is really, for me, seeing professionals is probably the first on my recommendations list on what to do, because they are professionals. They were literally trained to see this, and you're not crazy to them because they see a lot of people. And this is their profession, so they're trained to see things and point out things and call out things and ask specific questions. So definitely, professionals are 100%. Go see a psychiatrist. Go see a psychologist. Fully. Sure, it's been difficult, I think. It has been very difficult. I think initially I had this idea that, okay, cool, now we know what it is. Now we can have a 5-step plan and it'll be fixed. And in X amount of weeks or months or 3 years or whatever, then I'll be fine. Then I'll be cured and yay me. But then it was not like that.
Yeah.
So there was a long period of shame. First, the shame was very real, of being ashamed that I take medication, being ashamed that I see a psychologist every week, that there's things I just can't handle, because I am quite extroverted, I'm quite bubbly, I am outgoing, I love people, but sometimes I just have genuine social anxiety, and that's just something I have to deal with. So having shame around stuff like that for a while, was a big thing. So then I stopped taking my medication because then I don't want to be dependent on medication or whatever. But then obviously, if you stop taking your prescribed medication, you will suffer. Because your body is like adjusting to this thing, and the chemicals are being filled or whatever's going on, and then you go and interrupt that system cold turkey. That kind of takes you back. So had quite a few like bad relapses, almost not a relapse, but that's the best word I can think of now, where I've just gotten cold turkey and stopped taking my medication, and sometimes because of development. So because obviously I was a teenager and I'm growing as a human, my brain reacts differently to the medication. So I'd be taking a good strain of medication for 6 months and it's going great, and then all of a sudden it's just not. All of a sudden there's just an insane bout of depression that I cannot get over, and it has looked like having to go back to a psychiatrist and figure out what's going on and try new things. But sometimes after denial, sometimes I'm completely in denial. I'm like, no man, I'm fine. I just made a few bad decisions every now and then, or I'm just particularly tired this week or this month, and then it becomes 2 months, and then you're like, okay, so that, so the journey has been a lot of ups and downs, and I think most recently, towards the end of last year, was probably like the greatest dip I've had in life. Like, it was really difficult and really tough, and I think for me it took so long to recognize that, oh my goodness, I'm actually in a very massive dip right now. Probably 3 months when things were just, now everything was gone completely wrong, and it took the people in my life, it took family, friends, all kinds of interventions to be like, okay, but Uvile, hello, like wake up. And then kind of still working through that now. So right now we're still trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, how can we, what kind of disciplines do you just have to put into place, because that's just what it takes. And it's difficult. It's difficult. It's a journey, and it's not easy. Phew. I think there's two sides to the conversation. On the one hand, I think we've reached such it's a weird time in our society where everyone has a mental illness. So now that we found the word depression, and now that the word anxiety exists, now that, eating disorder, whatever it may be, then, I have 2 bad days, then I'm depressed. Oh my goodness, then the whole world's falling apart. Or, I'm nervous, genuinely, or I'm genuinely anxious about this specific situation, and now I have anxiety. That just must be it. So I think that is quite damaging. So that is the first one. It's quite damaging because we need to differentiate between the conditions, like the mental illnesses, versus like feelings of down or sad or depression, because that's also very real and should be addressed and dealt with. But it does not mean you have a mental illness. Does not mean you have a condition. So I think on the one hand, like consciously as grown-ups, as adults, as people who influence children, or just as humans actually, to consciously make a decision to stay away from doing that. Just stay away from trying to, play, I don't know what it is, but like kind of adapting mental illnesses when you don't have mental illness. Just because I think it's damaging because it kind of it normalizes like extremities. So you think, oh, she's depressed too, or he said he's depressed, but look at him, he's fine, so I'm not depressed. Or I don't know if that makes sense, but but also it also diminishes it then, because now I'm sitting here and I'm genuinely depressed and have depression, and it means nothing because everyone on earth is depressed, and we're all anxious, but like get over yourself or whatever it is. So I think that's the one side of the argument, but the conversation. And on the other side, I genuinely think people are just not aware enough. I can speak specifically to black communities. I just think we don't have the expertise, we don't have the information to be able to help our young people to see. And I think subjects like LO have really failed us actually in that regard. Because I think that's the space where we were supposed to learn about stuff like this, and maybe natural science. I don't know, biology. I don't know what they do there. I didn't do that, but But I imagine that's where you're learning about your body. So have it be part of normal conversation. So as you grow up and your parents teaching you about puberty and you're learning about, hey, these changes are going to happen to me. Let's also have the conversation of, hey, but if you can't get out of bed for 2 weeks, something's wrong. Like that's not okay. That's something is wrong, and it's not, you're not broken, if that makes sense. And actually that's maybe the third thing. So the second thing is just awareness, like speaking about it openly. And I think people sharing stories of, hey, I was 18 and I went through that, and this is a reality, and just normalizing it. Normalizing struggle, but also normalizing treatment. So normalizing, hey, so you see these 3 symptoms and go see a professional. So here's someone who actually has learned. So I think, providing access to resources in terms of humans instead of in terms of professionals who are able to diagnose, to help treat, is really important, because obviously we also don't want to have like teenagers or people being aware now all of a sudden, and now I've now ticked a list of 20 things and now I've diagnosed myself with this thing, but now what kind of thing. So there's that extra step of, okay, cool, I think this is what's going on, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing, this is what it sounds like. Let me actually go ask someone. And I think even a GP, like, start there. That is, I think for a lot of us, we have a GP. Like not every person, I don't want to assume, but most people generally have closer access to a general practitioner than they do to a psychologist. So speak to your GP and say, hey, just listen to me please for 5 minutes, like this is what's going on, because that's how you can get help. And I hope they listen. I think that's the other thing. I hope they listen, because I know doctors these days don't have time. They're just like, quickly, 5 seconds, give a prescription.